My Weird School Special, Book Number 9. The Leprechaun is Finally Gone. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pellot. Chapter 5. Larry the Leprechaun. What? A leprechaun? I thought leprechauns weren't real. Everybody stopped looking for four-leaf clovers. We all started yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering and freaking out. "Grab him!" Alexia shouted. "If we catch him, he'll give us his pot of gold." We didn't bother lining up like Pringles. We just ran into the school. "Which way did he go?" shouted Neil. "This way," Michael shouted. "Follow me." We ran down the hallway, past the gym, the band room, and the all-purpose room. I don't know why they called it the all-purpose room. There are no dolphins in there, but there were no leprechauns in there either. "He must be hiding somewhere," shouted Emily. We ran past the front office, the nurse's office, and the art room, looking up and down all the hallways. No leprechaun. "He got away," said Alexia. "Maybe he's hiding in the teacher's lounge," shouted Ryan. "Good thinking," I shouted. "We're not allowed in there." We ran down the hall to the teacher's lounge. It's a magical wonderland where the teachers get back rubs, lie around in hot tubs, and have servants feed them grapes all day. I opened the door. Mr. O'Cooper was sitting there at a table by himself. It looked like he was grading papers. I didn't see any hot tub or massage table. "Students aren't allowed in the teacher's lounge," Mr. O'Cooper told us. "You kids know that." "Did a leprechaun run in here?" I shouted. "No, why?" asked Mr. O'Cooper. "We were out in the playground," said Michael, "and we saw a leprechaun run in through the back door. Now we can't find him." "A leprechaun in the school?" shouted Mr. O'Cooper. "He may be in our classroom." He jumped up from his chair and ran out of the teacher's lounge. We all followed him. By the time we got to our classroom, I was panting. That means I was wearing pants. Mr. O'Cooper yanked open the door. "And you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years what we found in there. A mess! All our desks and chairs were upside down. Books and papers and colored pencils were scattered around. Our backpacks had been taken out of our cubbies and thrown on the floor." "What happened?" asked Emily. "Was there a robbery?" "No, this is what leprechauns do," said Mr. O'Cooper. "They play tricks on you." "Man, leprechauns are slobs," I said. Mr. O'Cooper looked angry. He likes a really neat classroom. I noticed something on the floor near the door. It was a tiny envelope. "Look," I said as I ran over to pick it up. "It's a note." I gave the envelope to Mr. O'Cooper, and he tore it open. We all crowded around him as he read it. This is what it said. "What does that mean?" asked Emily. "Leprechauns are tricky," said Mr. O'Cooper. "He wrote it in code." "Maybe he reversed the letters," shouted Neil. We read the note backward. This is what it said. He, you can't catch me. Larry the Leprechaun." Larry the Leprechaun! At least now we had his name. But we didn't know where he was hiding. "What are we gonna do?" asked Ryan. "There's only one thing we can do," replied Mr. O'Cooper. "We need to make a leprechaun chap." Chapter 6. Green food is gross. Yes, a leprechaun chap. If we could trap Larry the leprechaun, we would get his pot of gold. But first, we have to clean up this mess, said Mr. O'Cooper. Bummer in the summer. Making a mess is fun, but cleaning up a mess is no fun at all. We spent 1,100 minutes picking up all the stuff off the floor and turning our desks and chairs right side up again. By the time we were finished getting the classroom in order, it was time for lunch. We would have to wait to make our leprechaun chap. We pringled up and walked 1,100 miles to the vomitorium. It used to be called the cafetorium until some first grader threw up in there last year. Ever since then, everybody calls it the vomitorium. Mrs. Patty was greeting kids at the door. Do you want to touch Jake the snake? She was asking everybody. We already touched him, Emily reminded her. Sheesh, Mrs. Patty sure is obsessed with that snake. I'm so hungry, I said as we got in line. I could eat 100 slices of pizza. I could eat 1,000,000 slices of pizza, said Ryan. I could eat 1,000,000,000 slices of pizza, said Michael. But there were no slices of pizza to eat. When we got to the front of the line, we saw our lunch lady, Miss O'Hall. What would you like for lunch? She asked cheerfully. I've got green beans, green bread, green eggs, green muffins, green milk, green cupcakes, green donuts, green pancakes with green syrup, and corned beef and cabbage. I thought I was gonna throw up. Is the corned beef and cabbage green? I asked. No, said Miss O'Hall. That would be gross. If you ask me, any food that's green is gross. I couldn't make up my mind what to eat. Why don't you start with some potatoes, AJ? Miss O'Hall suggested. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, I made baked potatoes, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, hash brown potatoes. I wanted to go to Antarctica and live with the penguins. Penguins don't have to eat green food and potatoes. Garlic roasted potatoes, French fried potatoes, grilled potatoes, potato skins, potato soup, potato pancakes, potato salad. Do you have anything that doesn't have potato in it? I asked Miss O'Hall. Well, the potato soup doesn't have much potato in it, she replied. I took some corned beef and cabbage and sat down at a long table with everybody else. They were arguing about whether or not leprechauns were real. Larry the leprechaun is probably just one of the teachers in disguise, said Neil. I bet he's Mrs. O'Roopy. She's always dressing up like other people. I say leprechauns are real, said Ryan. They wouldn't put them on cereal boxes if they weren't real. Don't leprechauns make shoes or something? Asked Neil. I thought they made cookies, said Alexia. No, elves make cookies, said Michael. Leprechauns make shoes. How do you get a pot of gold by making shoes? I asked. I don't think shoemakers have a lot of money. Yeah, added Emily. And if leprechauns make shoes, how come there are no leprechaun shoe stores? Good point. If I got a pot of gold, said Alexia, I would use the money to take a trip around the world. I would buy a new video game system, said Michael. I would put it in the bank, said Emily, and use it to pay for college. I would buy all the candy in the world, said Neil. I would buy another pot of gold, I said. So then I'd have 2 pots of gold. I should get another Nobel Prize for that idea. That makes no sense, AJ, said Ryan. If you used your pot of gold to buy a pot of gold, you wouldn't have the first pot of gold anymore. Yeah, agreed Neil. You wouldn't have more gold, you'd just have a different pot. That's right, said Alexia. That would be like using 4 quarters to buy a dollar bill. They were right. It was a dumb idea. It had started raining, so we had indoor recess. Boo! Indoor recess is no fun. We walked 1,100,000 miles back to our classroom. But when we got there, we saw the weirdest thing in the history of the world. The door was blocked by green ribbons. We ripped them off and opened the door. And do you know what we found in there? Green handprints. They were all over the place, on the floor, on the windows, and even on the walls. On the whiteboard in front of the room, there was a message. Sorry for the chicks and trouble. I had to leave here on the double. I'll see you all another day with lots more tricks I need to play. Larry the leprechaun had struck again. When Mr. O'Cooper walked into the room and saw the handprints all over the place, he looked really mad. This means war, he said.